Hello and welcome to My Imperfect Knitting Life. This is episode 8 and it's a space where I talk about my knitting and my little mini commercial spinning mill and give you a little update on that. I don't have much knitting to show you today, so I thought I would start with something that I knit a few years ago, and it's called The Humulus by Amy Christopherson. It's a lovely pattern, a very easy knit, and she knitted it in something called snailed in 3-ply, which I could not get, and I actually ended up knitting it, I think, in a little wool company. It might have been a sport yarn actually, or even a double knit. I actually can't remember, it so long ago, but it's a top-down pattern, and you work some short rows at the back to just slightly lift that up, so it doesn't actually look like it's terribly lifted up, but yes, it's a little bit lifted up. And then you do the color work yoke, you divide for the sleeves, and then basically knit down to where you would like it to finish. And I've got it sort of just below my bottom, so it's a very casual oversized top at the moment, and of course my short sleeves that I love so much. So did not knit the long sleeves like she did. I will show you the picture. So she did that in a light grey, but I don't really find the light colours suit me very well. I tend to go for darker colours. Maybe I could try a medium grey, because I'm not thinking I love this either terribly much, but that's fine. It's something to wear, keeps me warm. Wear it with jeans or leggings or whatever, so it's quite a useful, practical top. The only other thing that I've got to show you is the little top that I told you I was going to start for Laura. So it's the same yarn as, I'm trying to stash bust. I'm really trying to get rid of a whole load of stuff in there, because I'm anticipating I'm going to have so much of my own stuff I need to knit up, so I cannot be buying much other stuff. What I will buy is yarn that I can make shawls out of. Well, one particular shawl, you know, my favorite, but this is the little mini magnolia. It's actually not a very quick knit. I mean, I've been doing this a week and it's for a little person, so you'd think it'd be a little bit quicker, but it is the mini magnolia, and it's a twisted rib neck and cuffs and hem, and it's a sport ply, and I'm knitting it in a 4mm needle. You'd think it'd go quicker, but it just doesn't. And I've actually had to size it up a little bit to fit Laura, because the number of stitches that it had, I actually found that it didn't look like it was going to fit. But anyway, fine. There are, at the back of on the back is short rows, which gives it a really nice little neck shape. I've divided for the sleeves, and I've started the lace. So each lace pattern is 16 stitches, and I always find it easier just to put these little markers. I have a big marker which shows me the beginning of my row, and then just a variety of small markers that separate each of the lace sections, patterns, repeats, whatever. And hopefully that will be finished next time I talk to you. Basically, that is all the knitting that I can show you today. What I do have in the background is some alpaca that I hand spun, and it's actually from alpacas that belong to Freddie's koro, or granddad, and I hand dyed these with avocado. That's what it came out like, and I've got enough here to make her a little top. I did make her a top, but I'm sure it's going to be too small this year, because I made something for a 3-year-old, and that's borderline fitting her now. And her mum said, "Oh, can't find this top anyway." And she was really disappointed, because it was one of her favorite little tops. It was just a little short sleeve singlety vesty thing, and found it a few months later in the back of Dad's ute. What's a ute overseas? In South Africa it was called a bakkie. So a utility vehicle, a utility vehicle, well, we call it a ute in New Zealand, and it had grease and dirt all over it, and so I was like, don't worry, I'll knit another one. That noise in the background is Little Red playing with something. She's been barking a bit because what she does is she like hops up on the couch, looks out of the window. If she sees any rabbits out there, she goes ballistic. She wants to get out there and chase them, and makes a hell of a lot of noise. So I'm really hoping in this time that I'm doing this, that she doesn't do that. Right, this is actually, I think, going to be quite a short little video because I don't have much to show you, and my update's going to be not too long either. What I will do though is I'm going to put in a couple of pictures of Freddie and Lila and Sophie wearing their little tops that I showed you last week. And they look very cute in them. Like I say, Freddie's is, I think, almost a little small, and I don't think she'll be able to wear one next year. So I'll have to find her another super special basic top that we like. Maybe I can even try and get a little bit clever, and instead of knitting it in a 4-ply, I could knit it in an 8-ply and just follow the pattern myself and give it a go. It's just harder to do when you do flat things because I don't know, I just don't get flat things very much. I think that's why I gave up knitting years and years ago, because I'd try and knit something and I couldn't get the backs and the fronts of the sleeves to match. Yes, Little Red, come here. Got your toy. Come say hello. Come on. Look. She's got her own little rabbit in her mouth. She's had that since she was a little puppy. We were actually looking at photos of her the other day because she's turned a year in January, and she was so sweet when she's still sweet, but she was so tiny when she was born. Well, obviously when she was born, but when we got her, I think she was about that big, so tiny. And my husband didn't really want a smallish dog. He likes big dogs, and I thought, no, I really don't want a big dog again. I love my big dog, but I wanted something a little bit smaller. Didn't want a yappy tiny dog, so I got Red, a border terrier. And I've got to tell you, he is completely besotted with this dog. The kids, our kids, just find it so hilarious because any other smallish dog, he's just called them rats, doesn't like them. But this dog, he's pathetic. He just loves her. He wakes up in the morning and he's like, oh, hello, Little Red, so cute. And then the other day he took her for a walk, and I was looking out the window. I was like, oh, quite a long time. And you can see quite far up the road, and I saw him walking the dog back, and as a car came past, he picked her up so that when the car went past, he was protecting her. And I got to tell you, if you know my husband Roger, you will know that that's a funny thing. Anyway, I digress. So I want to make Freddie this. I think it's fabulous that I get to make her something from alpaca fleece from her Koro's farm, and I think I might be getting some more from him. I hope so, because I could make him more things. I do like making, I think I've actually made even a blanket out of the alpaca, but can't remember now. You know, I've made a few grandchildren blankets when they were born. I'm not into a lot of lace knitting, but I do like feather and fan. That's one of my favorites, feather and fan. In fact, I have here, I mean, I think in America they're called Afghans, but we just call them like lap blankets or whatever. So this is a lap blanket that I made, and so when husband watches TV, he just pops his little Afghan on. Our kids used to love their blankets when they were young, and every Saturday morning, Sunday morning, when they got to watch TV, they would sit in their blankets. But I think houses are so much warmer now that maybe kids don't need blankets as much. But yeah, I like doing those blankets. I did actually have, this is crochet, it's not knitting, but when I first started spinning, I did a lot of dyeing, a bit of dyeing as well, and I ended up with really bright squares, and they just sat in the cupboard for years and years and years. And can you see how thick this is? I mean, it's really rustic spinning, but still, I made one up for my daughter out of all these squares, and then I thought, well, might as well make one up for us as well. So I did, and I call it my jewel blanket just because of the colors, all the jewelly colors. Anyway, let's get on to the mill. So when we last left, the pin drafter still wasn't working, and I had another chat with lovely Amanda at Junction Fibre, and she gave me a few more tips on things that really help for them. Key thing being a dial on the machine. So I want to show you soon. I'm going to actually do one show of the mill at some point when all the machines are working. But right now I'm just going to explain it to you. So on the pin drafter, we have little punch dial, punch screens that I have to set everything up. And so the industrial electrician came, and he was fabulous, such a help. And he literally just stood there with me and problem solved through things, and we ended up getting these little dials on there. And so once the dials went on, I'm telling you, that was a game changer for me. So it's completely different to how we learned to do an Otrahonga, in that we had very set numbers that we used. So instead of doing that now, I have to literally set the machine in motion and then dial it up so that the fleece gets taken up quite quickly. And then when it's at the right speed, I've got to slow it down until it's the right tension, because a little bit of tension on there seems to make a big difference. And so right now, the carding machine, pin drafter is working, and I put through some stuff with my friend Judy, and we even weighed it, and we've worked out that we can spin it. So I am about to have a go at the spinner today or tomorrow. Judy and I did try and have a go at the spinner a couple of days ago, but the little sucky bit, I'll show you that as well. But when you feed the fleece through, any fleece that is not spun gets sucked into a pipe and then goes into like a waste disposal thing, where you can actually recycle all of that wool by recarding it and what have you. And it just wasn't really very effective, and so we stopped. And then I was also like, okay, I haven't used this machine, I think I need to oil it and check it. And I did that. So I'm just about ready to go and have another go at the carder. I contacted Julie, and she said to me, oh, well, if the suction's not working very well, it's probably because something's stuck in the pipes. It's the one thing I've got to do, is go and try and unjam the pipes, or just check that that's perhaps what it is that's causing the problem. And then I'm going to have a go at spinning, which means I'm going to have some yarn. I'm really, really hopeful of being able to show you the yarn, but overjoyed that the pin drafter is working. It was just hours went. I did like 5 hours, and it was like, it didn't even literally have a cup of tea. I had one coffee in the entire time, lasted me the entire time that I was there, because I was so engrossed in just getting stuff through the pin drafter. And that was a lot of fun, and I'm really happy with the product that's coming out. And I feel if I can, even if I produce this and I produce only this, that will be fine. But I'm pretty sure as I get more confident, I'm going to play with the dials a little bit more and try and put more strands through the pin drafter. So also on the machines, I have learned a little bit more about my carder. So I've learnt how to grease it. Didn't know I was going to have to do that. We greased it, oiled it, I've cleaned it, and I got in contact with the company in Italy, and they tell me that it was the #1 carder. I don't know that that was the #1 carder, as in the very first carder they made, but, and I definitely know it can't have been, that machine can't have been the first one, because Julie had one before which was delivered and it didn't work, and she had to smash it down, provide evidence that it had been smashed down, and then they shipped out another one, and that's the one that I've got now. So maybe it's just the first version of the carder, but not the very first model. But it works really nicely and I'm very, very happy with it. And yeah, so that's one. The picker works, the carder works, the pin drafter works. Now it's the spinner next. So watch this space. I did actually have a bit of a laugh because when Paul was here, my brother-in-law from Australia, he was fantastic. Honestly, he's such a nice guy and so helpful. But while he was here, he helped me try and sort out the picker. And it's not the picker itself, that works fine, but it gets picked, goes through a sucky thing, out, and then it's dumped into what we call the dunny, or the TARDIS. And we set up the system with a bag underneath and then another bag on top to try and contain the fleece, but it flies everywhere. It goes over the top of the bag, it's stuck in the corners, and because the dunny is actually made out of wood, it attaches itself to the walls as well, so it's a bit of a pain. And I thought, okay, I'll try something else. So what I did was I went round and I thought, well, if it can't stick to the wall, then it'll just all fall to the floor. So I went round and I stapled plastic to the ceiling, all the walls and the door, and had another go, and it was a complete disaster. It was flying out of the, well, any gap, and you kind of need a gap, otherwise I think it would take off. And a total disaster. So I can't do any more picking until I think about what else to try, and I'm going to give a go at completely covering one of the tall buckets with a sort of, there is a netting sack which comes out of it, cover that over and give it another go. But I wonder if I should actually just fire it up and do a little video so that you can see how bad that looks when it's just all over the place. In fact, I'm going to have to give it a big sweep around there, because when I left, I had to rush off. I was called to a birth and I didn't even get to tidy up in there. So today, after I finish the video, I'm going to go and see my friend and have breakfast out, and then I'm going to come back, spend the rest of the day in the mill. So hopefully I'll get this podcast up, and it won't be long before I can put up another one, which is going to have the spinner in. So if you've managed to stay all the way through this video, thank you very much. And if you like it, subscribe so that you can and get notifications so that you can watch it again. And just comment below if you would like to send me some information. So thank you so much, and I will catch up with you soon. Bye. speed up a little bit to record it. Has it gone to 1?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that was in here? Got to take that out. I'm so busy this week that I just haven't been out in the garden very much, and just came out, and these are my new dahlias I planted, and they're just so beautiful. They're huge. I mean, look at the size of that next to my hand. So pretty. So very, very pretty.